Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished entrepreneur and a fellow member from the YPO, Ravi Singhee from Chennai, India. Ravi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Thank you.
Ravi is the managing director of Magnum Clothing. And as I mentioned, he's a YPO member and he's also a member of the EO. So Ravi, let's talk first about Magnum Clothing. Tell me about this venture.
So Magnum Clothing was started by my father 52 years ago, primarily a trader, very little manufacturing, but very profitable and economic migrant. It's in our DNA. My grandfather left Rajasthan to come to Calcutta. My father left Calcutta to go to England. I left England to come to Chennai.
Okay.
It's in the DNA of the Marwadis who come from a desert land that, we go where opportunity calls. And Chennai was a really phenomenal place to come to in those days. It is the heartland of textiles in India. Okay. It is Coimbatore is the Manchester of textiles, but Chennai could have been, the gateway to it. So came here in 93. We weren't into manufacturing per se. We had very sparse manufacturing facilities. And from there to employing 3,000 people today, it's been quite a journey. With time, we changed our product mix to cater to the market. My WhatsApp DP says the client is the boss, and I do genuinely believe it. We are in today a business which caters to the most aggressive women's wear retailer globally online, which is Next. We work very closely with a supermarket in the UK called Tesco and the value retailer in the UK called Matalan. The price we sell for doesn't matter because the margin structure differentiates. And Magnum Clothing's USP has been, how do you deliver value? What is the compelling reason that a retailer would get ahead of others? And I guess that's the story of Magnum, right? We've created compelling value for our customer.
So before I go further, when you talk customer, you create value for the retail chain that buys from you, who's your customer.
Yeah.
What happens to the value to the actual consumer?
So my view for my customer will always be the person who buys the garment.
Correct.
Eventually. The retailer is a medium. So, we won't have too many things in our process which would tick the boxes for corporate retail.
Okay.
But we will create the flavor that the customer who clicks online at 9 o'clock in the evening with a glass of wine in her hand, when she sees newness from us, or she sees something which Zendaya or Kim Kardashian or someone has worn 3 weeks ago, we are able to present a print like that 5 weeks later. That's the whole philosophy of getting them excited and making them curious and interested. And obviously the medium has to be the retailer. They do the brand building, but we are integral to making the customer who comes to them enjoy the experience.
Very well said. So from Rajasthan to Calcutta, Calcutta to London, London to Chennai, what have been some of your challenges and what have been some of your learnings?
So, we go back, we track our family by quite a fair bit. My granddad was actually one of the most wealthiest people around in those days. He unfortunately, in the markets, speculated and virtually bankrupt, left a huge legacy in the village by which we all are known today, which is the temple. But one of the things that stuck with us was the strength of our word. Grandfather came to Calcutta as a 15, 16-year-old person. He had nothing else but that reputation. And getting credit and delivering on his promises is something which then got imbibed into the culture of the family. So, I guess the learning has been that, making a reputation and getting credibility, it takes generations to build, right? But to destroy it, right, it takes seconds. I've just opened an office in Delhi, and I'd gone with my president of the operations to the marketplace where we buy, new things. And she was saying that, Ravi, I'm shocked that the shopkeepers here just give you things on credit. They don't even ask you to pay anything. They said, yeah, we'll get the money from Chennai. It's unheard of. I said, yeah, we've been doing it for 28 years. I've been doing it for 28 years.
Nice.
And there's a relationship. And I think the biggest learning has been that you've got to honor your word, come what may. Even when COVID happened, I didn't deduct a single penny from any of my vendors, even though my customers hurt us. Right? The learning has been that being so focused on your own story, I think entrepreneurs should have an independent board member on their advisory. There must be someone to challenge them. Otherwise, you're so involved in your own thoughts and story that at times you become very myopic.
Fascinating. So you said that, when you moved back to Chennai, you set up, it would be correct to say you set up the first manufacturing facility for the family then?
Yeah, you could say that. The manufacturing we had was Namkewa. It was just namesake. It wasn't anything which was established. I had no idea. I must give credit here. I'm not the entrepreneur in this. My father's the true entrepreneur because he took a bet on me. The bank guarantees was that those days signed by him, not by me. So he really took the bet on me. He lived in England. So the entire process of buying the machinery, I'll tell you, Ashutosh, a funny story. I went to Scotland and I bought a second-hand plant from Marks and Spencer's, biggest factory for them, and brought it to India because the cost of buying that technology brand new was crazy. But to bring second-hand technology into India at a much lower cost, we learned so much from that.
Correct.
It funneled about 10 years worth of growth for us. So.
And after that, incident, tell me about your journey as you've really grown your manufacturing business.
So we made sure that we were abreast with technology. And technology, not because it was being told to implement it, but how we really used it. We put in a CRM for product development 15 years ago. It was unheard of in the industry. My designer sitting in the UK could use the same platform. My customers could use the same platform. Feedback was instantaneous. We actually benefited this entire journey of as telecommunications and technology improved. We were able to ride that. And I think one of the things that as an entrepreneur I've learned is that if someone is doing something well, ride on their coattails. Correct. You don't need to invent everything yourself. But if someone's got a good model, a good platform, a good technology, a good idea, copy it. Always give credit for it, but do copy it because they must have had so many experiences in perfecting it. So technology for us was huge, and adaptability to fashion. Most people would see fashion in terms of color, but fashion is terms of sustainability. We started partnering with Grasim on reduced dyeing methods to conserve water 25 years ago.
Wow.
We were application development partners with them when no one even thought of how to reduce water, right? Or salts. Fiber dyeing was not even thought of in our fashion business. It was mostly done on formal menswear and all of that. So, as and when you align yourself with great corporations, as an entrepreneur, we were able to pick on to their strengths and leverage that.
Fascinating. So, your answer has given me the segue to my next two questions. You spoke about technology. I don't know enough about the textile business, but given the incredible advancements in technology that are taking place all the time, what are your thoughts on how technology has changed or is changing the textile business?
So like every business, right? It's about manpower, raw material, and the customer interface. The technology that we had to inspect fabric was very archaic 30 years ago, 40 years ago, right? When we had to go and check fabric in places like Surat, they would make our guys sit on the floor and check fabric, right? The machinery, the inspection machines were not easily available. Someone must have made a collaboration with a German customer. They bought in some equipment, and Indian people copied it, and it became prevalent. The idea is that technology, what we've bought in, has to be cost effective, and the cost of implementing it cannot be more than the savings you're going to have. The challenge here has been training staff, training members to really get the juice out of it. Am I?
Yeah. No, you're very clear. And sorry, go ahead.
And thereafter, there's a lot of new age technology, which leapfrogs time, like Internet of Things. We never in our lives would think that we would get that technology working on our sewing lines. But earlier we had people roaming around with clipboards and pens and pencils, recording what every operator stitches. Right now, with Internet of Things on the machines that we have, it is automatically captured and it is sent up into a server, and we have algorithms set up to highlight which sewing machine is actually holding the line back.
Wow.
That would have taken about 12 or 15 people to analyze for 30 lines, right? Now, 2 people can manage the entire operation.
Amazing. The second thing you spoke about, Ravi, was fashion. And this is something which I've always wondered about. How do organizations like yours, which are catering to multiple retailers, how do you stay ahead of the fashion curve?
So I think, again, as I say, you have to listen to your customer. I'll give you a classic example, okay? Raw material prices in my industry have gone up by 40 to 50% in the last 4 months, 5 months. It's been crazy. Freight costs, have gone up exponentially.
Correct.
Every retailer has to make margin. Their costs are going to go up. How are they going to make margin? They can't randomly increase their selling prices by 20%, 25%, right? It's just not possible. Means today, if you were selling a shirt for $40, you can't increase it to $50. The customer won't take it in.
Correct.
But the way I've looked at it is by delaying decision making, by being a lot more aware of what your competition is bringing in. So normally, I'll take 60 seconds to explain to you how this is very relevant to sustainability as well.
Sure.
The map of the world that you have behind you, the further east you go, it became cheaper.
Correct.
So where America was manufacturing and the UK was making the best shirts and suits, as they went to Eastern Europe, then they went to Asia, then they went to Bangladesh, it became cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Like every time zone, you're saving 10%, right?
Correct.
And that's the whole cycle. But also what happens is every time zone, you're putting in more buffer. Fabrics will take longer, shipping takes longer. So whereas Zara can have fabric on the floor and deliver a blouse in 3 weeks, someone who's ordering it for just price out of Bangladesh will have to order it 5 months early.
Okay.
Now, if you can decide what color is going to sell really well in the month of July 5 months early, right, you're a magician. And most of us follow fashion. So if Zara has something, Inditex has something, the catwalks have something, some iconic figure wears something, that becomes the fashion. So we ended up re-engineering our supply chain, whereas no one wants to invest money in keeping raw material. We invested in keeping yarn, even though we are not a spinner. We buy it upfront. We are not a weaver, but our payment terms are so strong that whatever weave a customer wants, we're able to deliver it. So you've created this entire platform, and thereby you have helped the customer reduce markdown. Everything they buy, they don't sell at full price. You get my point?
Yeah.
You've been in retail, right? Everything you buy apart from medication, you don't sell at full price.
Correct.
You would obviously have to give a discount. Could be 20, 25%. So if your full price sell-through was at 70%, but because I gave you 3 extra months to decide on what to buy, and your full price sell-through came up to 85%, I've given you 15% on retail value compared to a 15% cost increase on purchase price.
Very interesting.
Do you get my point?
Yep.
So you're saving 15% of $40 rather than paying 15% of $6. So, you might pay 75 cents here, but you're saving $6 eventually. And I think that's the whole cycle that we would want to encompass.
Fascinating. So, you're an amazing interviewee, if I can say, because Every question that I think of, you already answer in advance, But I'm going to now come to sustainability. And sustainability is something which is often blamed on the textile industry, that they don't think, about all the waste and the chemicals, etc., that go in. And you just mentioned 25 years ago, you were talking of water. You just spoke of sustainability again. I'd love to get your perspective on what are some of the sustainability challenges of your industry, and how is the industry handling it?
I think I will take a detour to this answer, right? Because there is a personal journey here. Marwari household, and for whatever the stereotypical things are, we are very cost conscious.
Correct.
We would spend the best amount of money on everything, but where we have to save, we save. We grew up drinking water out of glass bottles, which were erstwhile whiskey bottles. Right?
Most of us did.
Most of us did, right? Now you think about it. No one in the West ever did that. For us, sustainability was a way of life because we didn't have that much a choice and amount of product to buy from. So everything we had, we recycled. We used to have a Raddiwala come and buy paper from us. Someone had monetized this process in the 70s and 80s. They would have been bigger than Tesla today. But that was our way of life. Textiles also in India had an entire value chain set up. I think where sustainability got really bad named is when retailers, to chase price, bought deeper, that is larger volume, and they went longer by taking bigger risks. So it's like investment bankers got a bad name because they played on, CDOs and things like that. Retailers have created a bad name for sustainability because in order to chase price, they're buying longer and longer lead period. Now, if you buy closer to the season, you will waste less. You will have less markdown. You will have less landfills to fill up. And the entire premise of selling cheaper and cheaper to attract the customer was one of the reasons that a lot of inferior quality was starting to be made. If you remember, Marks and Spencer's, when we all were growing up, right, was the benchmark for undergarments.
Absolutely.
Right. And and their shirts and everything else. But over a period of time, they've really struggled hard to keep up that platform of quality at a decent pricing. They've had to take it to the Far East. The moment they've done that, they've had so much markdown because their stores are not fashionable enough. It's a very, very difficult balance. And then corporates have so much overhead cost attached to strategy that actually that strategy is not worth the cost that you're talking about.
Correct.
So I think fashion sustainability, the way Zara does it, even they're called fast fashion, their markdowns are less. Eventually, that's what we should be looking at. They're not going to be dumping tons of thousands, hundreds of thousands of garments in landfills. That would be more or less coming from those brands who are not buying for the season.
Okay.
That's my personal
I'm with
view.
You. Completely with you.
And also, a lot of countries didn't have very strong laws. So customers obviously follow code of conduct of where each country has their own code. They will follow law of the land. So if India had strong pollution laws, which I know for a fact Tamil Nadu is extremely stringent. Putting up a new plant here, you basically have to put a pharma quality dyeing factory here. Whereas if you go to Bangladesh, you won't have those standards. So will there be a uniform standard of ecology? Like we're talking about COP26. As much as carbon fuels are a challenge, all these other things should also be looked at. And we should, and that's the way I think we will be able to address this fast fashion virus.
Fascinating. So I'm now going to move to the last segment of our conversation, which is on the pandemic and work from home. My first question to you is, how has the pandemic impacted the textile business?
So it made us realize who truly our partners are. I'll give you an example. Next, as a retailer, paid for stock which they hadn't seen, that hadn't been made. They just paid us. They said, we've ordered it, we'll pay for it, and when things are better, we'll take it from you.
Wow.
Now, how many retailers would do that? right? A lot of retailers canceled stock, created huge amount of hardship. A lot of retailers, like I work with Matlan, they helped us with our payment terms. They said, listen, we understand cycles are difficult, we'll change our payment terms. So when you've got customers like that, bestseller as another, it's a great business. One of the most philanthropic businesses in the apparel business is bestseller. By large, the amount of charities they do, they went out of their way. They said, we'll pay all our suppliers within the week. Whatever's due, we'll pay you. And that was one sign that let's partner for the future with a person who understands your pain. He might not be able to subsidize your pain, but he understands your pain. The second thing happened with us with work from home and this entire apparel conversation is we became more efficient. We were a lot more efficient. Okay. Our processes improved, our quality standards improved because the short-sightedness earlier was, things will happen. Now it was, we don't know when it's going to go. So if you manufacture something today, it gets packed today, shipped today. You were enforcing better cycle times and downtimes. The most important thing for us is that work from home liberated creativity in a lot of our employees. Okay. So I have actually, put out an ad to recruit people over the age of 55 as interns, primarily because so many people were made redundant. Wow. Our designers work from home. People with young kids were finding it easier. The throughput of work, what a designer was doing, let's say 2 years ago, coming to the office, and what she was working from home maybe 3 days a week and 2 days in the office, I would say manifold increase, Ashutosh. A happier person, a calmer person is generally a far better creative person, right? So we all have had, and there's enough and more software that, how many keystrokes you make an hour and all of that. In our business, that's not important. Correct. The output is a lot more important than the amount of time you do good to making that output. And I think happier people give us a happier business platform. Our numbers across debt, gearing, stock turnover, every metric over the pandemic has improved remarkably. It's been a radical improvement. Wow. And I can only thank that to people who actually understood, who value our jobs a lot, and our customers who supported us in this transition.
Fascinating. So Ravi, one more question, and you just spoke about putting an ad for 55-year-old interns. Tell me a little bit about this and your thought behind it, because this can open up the world for older people across multiple industries.
So, I don't profess to be one of those structured people who do date nights with their wife. But on the occasion that I did, we were watching this film called The Intern with Anne Hathaway and Robert De Niro.
Yes.
And, I always thought myself to be as pretty in the masculine sense as Anne Hathaway. And she always thought I'll hire someone as good looking as Robert De Niro. But jokes aside, it gave me a thought. I said that, the most valuable asset I have in my business today, and I'm not saying this just like that, is my father, who's 73 years old. Right. He has no idea of the technology we use. He has no idea of the resources we bring in. But the questions that he would ask, in my lifetime, I don't think anyone would ask, right? And they're really pertinent questions.
Correct.
When we went with this 55 plus, we did it because quite a few people were being made redundant, or were being asked to go, or were being created in an environment where there's a lot of pressure on them. The response we've had has been unreal. It means we've signed NDA, so we can't obviously share it.
Oh, sure.
But I've had a 76-year-old man send me a video on a selfie stick, on a ski board in Australia, having run a suit factory in England for 42 years.
Wow.
Now you imagine someone like him even spending 2 hours a week online with my production guys, discussing their top 5 challenges, top 5 successes, the mentoring they will get, and the value systems they bring are from a generation which I personally think in this internet age we've lost. So to bring in old school values, which is derided by the lot of Gen X guys, I personally think we need to find the right model between the fastest server but the most apt thought process. And I think that combination, so it's worked for us. We've had a couple of good hires, and we hope with time we get more people coming on board.
Amazing. Amazing. Ravi, on that note, I must say that this has been such an incredible conversation. You are obviously an amazing businessman because you come to Delhi with your CEO and your retailer gives you credit. You you go through the pandemic and Next pays you in advance. So obviously you've got an incredible amount of credibility. But thank you for taking me through your amazing journey and for all the stuff that you're doing. Thank you again.
No, it's been amazing. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.